may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, guys, y'all absolutely killed that running back ranking video. I mean, we had so many likes, so many new subscribers, and most importantly, so many new people deciding to support the show on Patreon, where we just passed 250 Patreon supporters. That is literally a number I never thought we would hit. I mean, it is literally absurd, and it makes the decision to do this full time so much easier, where I don't have to worry about starving to death on the side of the road. But anyway, I want to give everybody a big time thank you for that. So we are going to be going through and doing our rookie wide receiver rankings. Of course, we are not going to be covering all of them. You can find all of our rankings over on Patreon, as well as where these wide receivers stack up to the running backs, as well as where they stack up to quarterbacks in Superflex formats and so on. But no, here we are going to be covering these guys right here, our top 5 rookie wide receivers. And yeah, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and especially that comment section when you can go down there and you can let me know why you don't agree with me. I hate the comments that just say, Mason, you're stupid, but the comments that start with, Mason, you're stupid, and then followed up with an explanation. Those are my favorite comments, because you go down there, give your own opinion, and a lot of the times, those opinions are very smart. It's a very nice point of view that someone else in the comment section should read, that I myself should probably read those a little bit more often. So yeah, continue to do those. I really like when y'all push back on me and tell me that I'm wrong. And let's get into it. And nobody's going to push back on this wide receiver 1 ranking with Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase was in his own tier going into the NFL draft. Everybody had him as the wide receiver 1. And like we said, we called that he was going to be going to the Cincinnati Bengals. And it happens regardless of if you think the Bengals should have gone with the Jamar Chase or should have gone with the top offensive lineman. That's not the point. The point is Jamar Chase reunites with Joe Burrow. And Jamar Chase, according to consensus, was the number 1 wide receiver prospect going into the NFL draft. Now, this is something that very rarely happens. It very rarely happens that there is a consensus with that top spot. I mean, it hasn't happened in years, yet Jamar Chase checks that by being an incredibly impressive prospect. Not only does he have the size you want to see, not only does he have the athleticism, but most importantly, like we always talk about, Jamar Chase has the production. He has the production with context, where, yeah, you can look at his sophomore season numbers and you can go, well, yeah, they're very impressive. But then you have to look into it and you have to realize that he was playing on the same team with Justin Jefferson. And I know you have heard this a million times before, so I probably shouldn't even say it, but he outproduced Justin Jefferson in 2019 with that historic LSU offense. The 2 wide receivers clearly had their own roles, where Jamar Chase was a little bit more of that deep threat option. Justin Jefferson was a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, where Jefferson had more receptions, yet despite Jefferson having more receptions, Jamar Chase was so efficient with his targets that Jamar Chase actually had both more receiving yards as well as total receiving touchdowns, which is obviously incredibly impressive when you take into the fact that Justin Jefferson just put up one of the most impressive rookie seasons of all time. Now throw in the fact that Jamar Chase was actually a year younger than Justin Jefferson whenever they both had that 2019 LSU season. So Jamar Chase checks every box. He has the capital, which represents the opportunity. He also has the production. He has the athleticism. So there's really nothing to be afraid of from Jamar Chase. Now, if you go through and you look at the situation, you could make the argument that maybe it isn't the best situation going to play alongside T. Higgins, but I'm fine with it, because you saw Zach Taylor, the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, the rookie season for Joe Burrow, be willing to go, you know what, Joe Burrow, throw the ball 50 times this game. We don't care. Let's air it out. Our defense isn't the best defense in the NFL. It's not like we are going to be able to establish the run. Let's just go full on gunslinger mode. And if you see anything close to that type of volume in 2021, which will be very hard to project, I will say that. I mean, Jamar Chase could immediately be one of those rookie wide receivers like a CeeDee Lamb, a Justin Jefferson, that could turn into a league winner right away. So yeah, Jamar Chase, nobody's going to have the argument for anybody else at 1. Now at 2, this is where you get the massive drop off in tiers. You get the massive arguments coming in here at number 2, 3, 4, 5. And at 2, we are going to stick it with what we had before the NFL draft. We are going to be going with Devonta Smith. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, Mason, didn't you have Jalen Waddle get drafted ahead of Devonta Smith in the NFL draft? Yeah, we saw that. We saw Jalen Waddle get drafted by the Miami Dolphins at that number 6 pick. And I talk about this a lot where, yes, we are not willing to say that we are smarter than NFL teams. I'm not sitting here and saying that Devonta Smith is going to be a better real-life NFL wide receiver than Jalen Waddle. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying that it's entirely possible that Jalen Waddle, the field-stretching wide receiver that is going to provide a ton of space underneath for the Miami Dolphins, was worth the pick at 6, and he is going to bring more value to the Miami Dolphins than Devonta Smith would. Yet, Smith is going to be the player that profiles to see more targets. He's going to be the player that profiles to have more receptions, more yards, more touchdowns, and that is what you chase. Now, he does land in a spot where it's not the worst landing spot, but it's definitely not the best, where there's not many players that he's going to be competing for with targets. I mean, he doesn't have the T. Higgins in that offense. The best players in that offense are going to be a guy like Dallas Goedert, someone maybe Jalen Reagor. We don't even know yet with Jalen Reagor. So Devonta Smith, he could come in and he could immediately be the wide receiver 1 for this team starting in week 1. But the problem is, it may end up being the case of like the Baltimore Ravens, where the passing volume is just so low with the rush first quarterback in Jalen Hurts, where maybe just the overall passing volume limits whatever wide receiver is there from becoming that top option in fantasy. Now, we can't say this for sure, though, because we haven't had Jalen Hurts starting for an entire season. So with Devonta Smith, yeah, he's undersized, but he had that historic college production. He clearly is valued highly by the Philadelphia Eagles, who decide to trade up to that number 10 pick to get ahead of the New York Giants to take Devonta Smith. So yeah, Smith is going to be my wide receiver 2, but I know that some people are going to have arguments there. And even more people are going to have arguments at this wide receiver 3 spot. You are going to have Elijah Moore for us. Now, Elijah Moore, y'all know that he was our guy the entire offseason. He ended up getting a little hype train going before the NFL draft, where a lot of people caught up to his real-life dynasty value. But at the beginning of the offseason, Elijah Moore was being completely undervalued to the point where if you looked at dynasty rookie mock drafts, I mean, he had an ADP in the late 3rd round. If you were going on sleeper, he looked like a wide receiver that was maybe not even getting drafted in some formats. And we were just doing research, crap, there's a 20-year-old SEC wide receiver that averaged 150 receiving yards. That was fantastic his sophomore year, that then comes out, puts up a very impressive 40-yard dash time. Where's the love for Elijah Moore? All of a sudden, he gets that leading into the NFL draft. I mean, if you go through and if you look at the mock draft ADP from Elijah Moore throughout the entire offseason, there's actually a graph made of this that was sent in our Patreon group chat, where Elijah Moore's ADP for those mock drafts literally was like a rocket ship. I mean, they were mocking him to be a late 3rd round NFL draft pick, and by the time we got to the NFL draft, he was up there being mocked to be a 1st round pick. That doesn't happen, but he is a early 2nd to the New York Jets. A team that was able to surprisingly give Jamison Crowder some promising weeks last season. And we've compared Elijah Moore to Jamison Crowder before. I've compared Elijah Moore to that slot wide receiver, the Jamison Crowder, the Tyler Boyd. And we pretty much say, hey, if you take a Tyler Boyd, you take a Jamison Crowder, you then give that player elite level speed, you then give that player some upside. That's what Elijah Moore has. Elijah Moore, a wide receiver that we loved going into the NFL draft. He has great athleticism. He, more importantly, has amazing production. He accounted for like 50% of Ole Miss's offense in his junior season. And in his sophomore season, he had over 800 receiving yards, and the second best wide receiver on the team didn't even crack 200. This is a bona fide stud going to the New York Jets. They do have Corey Davis. They did draft Denzel Mims out of Baylor in the 2nd round last year, but that was a completely different regime that drafted Denzel Mims. So you maybe just look at Denzel Mims fading into the background, kind of like a guy like James Robinson at this point. When a different coaching staff brings him in, he doesn't really appeal to the next guy coming. So maybe he just goes to the back. Elijah Moore is their guy. They bring in Zach Wilson. I mean, Elijah Moore, I am very bullish with. Okay, so now let's get our next guy up here. Let's get Jalen Waddle. And keep in mind, guys, over on Patreon, you're going to see me nonstop updating these rookie rankings. Probably I'm going to hold off for doing it for a week just so I can really let things sink in. I can really try to dive into these situations because these rankings are just initial gut reactions. We had our evaluations of these players coming in. Now we have their landing spots. We have the draft capital. Now we have to do an initial reaction. We have to move them where they think they should go right away. And then we can sit here for a week. We can really think about it, and then we can give probably a better answer. So those are going to be updated. I will say I could see really any wide receiver jumping up to 3, 4, 5. But here, as of now, we are going to have Jalen Waddle at 4. He was drafted by the Miami Dolphins at pick 6th overall. And what's crazy about this Jalen Waddle selection is they decided to trade the 12th overall pick as well as a future first to go and get Jalen Waddle. Now, maybe they thought that they were going to have a shot at Kyle Pitts. Who knows? But they ended up making that investment into Jalen Waddle nonetheless. Now, the case with Waddle is a little bit interesting because obviously he doesn't profile to be like a Devonta Parker. He doesn't look like he is anything close to a wide receiver of that mold. He looks more like a Will Fuller, a guy that they brought in this offseason. Now, with Will Fuller, he's under contract for 1 year. He is under contract for 2021 and not beyond that. So maybe Jalen Waddle isn't someone that makes an impact right away, which is crazy to say because usually with these guys with speed, they are going to be a little bit quicker to get on the field just because they don't have to know the entire route tree. They can just go on and they can tell them, hey, just run a vertical route. Just clear out and let us do our work underneath. So Jalen Waddle, I don't know for sure if we can say that he's going to be an instant impact player just because I think that Will Fuller is a very good NFL wide receiver. And I think that maybe you see Jalen Waddle take a little bit of time to get going. So let me know if y'all think I'm wrong with this, but also Jalen Waddle never profiles to be someone like an Elijah Moore, like a Devonta Smith, like a Jamar Chase with how many wide receiver targets he should see per game. He's pretty much betting that he's going to win off of efficiency. He's going to win off of yards per target as well as a very high touchdown rate. If you look at what those speedy guys tend to do, usually those aren't great bets unless they're playing with an elite quarterback. But nonetheless, Jalen Waddle is going to be here at number 4. Okay, so now our last guy coming in at number 5 lands in the best spot I want to say possible for him. This is going to be Rondell Moore. So I know y'all are going to want to roast me for my Rondell Moore ranking like y'all did before the NFL draft because Rondell Moore is a wide receiver that I like. I like him a lot more than some of y'all do. And yes, we can address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the fact that Rondell Moore is the exact opposite of an elephant. I mean, he's more like an ant. The man is 5'7", which, yes, we have never seen a wide receiver in the NFL level, especially for fantasy, do much at 5'7". Yet with Rondell Moore, you do have him as an elite level athlete. And I know a lot of people want to come out and say, Mason, how do you rank Rondell Moore this highly when you talk about all the time at the wide receiver position that athleticism is a little bit overvalued? And it's because, guys, what do we also talk about at the wide receiver position? We talk about the number one thing being age-adjusted production. There is nothing that is more correlated for success at the NFL level than age-adjusted production at the wide receiver position. Rondell Moore, his true freshman season at 18 years old, put up one of the most impressive wide receiver seasons in the entire country. And what did we say with Rondell Moore coming into the NFL? We went, you know what? This is a wide receiver we like, but we can't acknowledge the fact that if he lands, just say with the Giants, if he lands with a team that isn't going to be willing to be a little bit creative with how they use him, if they want to use him a little bit more as a gimmicky type player, like a guy like Tavon Austin, then we can be scared. But yet, if he lands with a team that we know has a head coach that's a little bit more creative, someone that's possibly a little younger, someone that isn't just going to fit these square pegs into round holes, then we can get excited about Rondell Moore. And he lands with the Arizona Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. And say what you want to with Cliff Kingsbury and going for it on 4th down and how he doesn't look like he is all in on analytics. What we do know is he's willing to have a great offense set up in their run to pass ratio with their overall success rate at running the football based on setting up the pass and how they can spread the ball out. So I actually really like the scheme that Rondell Moore is landing with in Arizona, not to mention that he's landing with one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL with Kyler Murray. So yeah, I love this landing spot for Rondell Moore, and he has to be a top 5 wide receiver in my opinion. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. I want to give a big thank you for everyone supporting the show in Benjamin, Bill, Jason, Matthew, Hutton, Sean, Freddie's Berto, Andy, Frederick, and Chris.